Have you ever pulled up a mix and realized straight away that the drums have to be fat and hefty and need some more oomph? Now that's one of the things I wanted to achieve with this particular mix. Today we're talking about creating heavy, fat drums, and that's what's coming up. Hey, I'm Akurios. Thanks for joining me today. If this is the first time you're seeing me, I'm a music producer, a musician, an audio engineer, a voice coach, and an entrepreneur. And the reason I'm here is to help musicians find the courage to pursue a music career and earn a living in the process while improving their gifts and talents. So if you're interested in sharpening your music business skills or becoming a better singer or learning interesting things about music production and audio engineering, then this channel is going to be helpful to you. So tap that subscribe button and tap the notification bell also so that you are notified when there's new content from me. Now today is Friday and we're continuing our audio tutorials, tips, tricks, and hacks on recording and music production. And today we're talking about mixing fat drums. If you want to achieve fat, hefty drums that have some serious oomph in your mixes, then this video is going to be very helpful to you. I'm going to break this particular topic into 3 or 4 videos. I'm not sure yet how many videos it's going to take to achieve exactly what I want, because I want to be as detailed as possible. I want to share every single thing I did in order to achieve this particular drum mix. So I'm going to treat the kick drum and the snare. Maybe I'll touch the snare, maybe not, but I'll cover everything about the kick drum in this particular video. So watch till the very end. In order to achieve a heavy kick drum sound that is tight, neat, compact, that pierces through, thumps your chest, and drives the music, then this video is going to be helpful to you. So watch till the very end to know exactly what I did to achieve my kick drum sound. So let's head into the mix and see what's going on. All right, first of all, I'm going to show you exactly what is going on here. We have 10 drum tracks. We have, of course, kick, snare, hi-hat, tom 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And we have, of course, overheads and drum room 1 and drum room 2. The difference between these 2 tracks is one is an actual drum room, a distant drum room, where the mics were, the mics captured more of the actual room sound. And then this other drum room sound is just a collection of the entire kit at a close range, because it has a tighter sound than this first drum room sound. And I'll show you why I actually brought it into the mix so it can contribute what it is contributing. And then, of course, we have processing on the drum group. Just the compressor, that's a Waves SSL compressor doing some very light compression. It's not serious. And then, of course, you can see that in this subgroup here, the toms, there's a tom subgroup that has an EQ and also has a compressor, a CLA 76, doing some compression right there. And you can see that there's a lot of VMR, Slate VMR plugin on almost all the channels. And that's because I really like the sound of VMR and the Slate plugins, the analog emulations on my drum tracks. And that's one of the fastest ways to achieve. I'm not doing any adverts here, okay? There's no sponsorship here, so I'm not going to talk too much about the plugins, okay? But first of all, let's listen to the entire mix and listen to what the drums are doing. But pay attention to the drums as you listen to the entire mix. Have a feel of the drums, have a feel of the kick drum, the snare, the hi-hats, the entire groove, and see, what kind of sound you can, pick out from that. Okay, so let's listen now.
I wonder what I would have been if it were not for you. I wonder what I would have been if you had not come for me. Yeah. My days would be painful, sorrow would cover me through. But I praise you, Lord, for coming here to set me free. I am thankful, grateful to you.
All right, okay, so let's listen to the drums by themselves. I'll just solo the drum mix. Okay, so that's the sound of the drum mix by itself. Now, obviously, we have some processing in the bus. Like I mentioned, there's an SSL compressor going on there, doing very little compression. Let's see how much compression. Okay, that's not even up to that's not even up to 2 dBs of compression because I do not want. Now this particular plugin, let me explain something here. Now, when you're compressing a drum mix, okay, you'll know that the kick drum is the heaviest element of that particular mix. It has the most low end, it has the most energy. So when you place a compressor on the drum bus, for instance, the kick drum is going to be affected most by the compressor, depending on your compressor settings. All right, now I didn't want too much compression because there's already some compression going on the individual drum elements. So, and I don't want the compressor in this drum bus to alter the sound of my drum mix by too much. So there's not much compression going on. I'm just using this as a glue to tighten the sound of the drum mix. Once again, listen to the kick sound in the mix and have a feel.
I wonder what I would have been if it were not for you. I wonder what I would have been if you had not come for me. Yeah. My days would be painful, sorrow would cover me through. But I pray.
Let's solo the kick and listen to it. So you can hear it has that clicky, it's clicky at the same time, it's heavy. It has the weight and the oomph of a solid kick drum in this kind of music that needs to be driven by the drums. All right, now if we bypass the processing on the kick drum channel and of course the processing on the drum bus, what we have is this. That's very boring, almost lifeless. So we have to inject some life into it. So first of all, what is going on in the channel? We have the VMR here doing a bunch of things. First of all, let's activate it and then go to the very first module here. Excuse me. Now, first of all, we have the FG73 going on here. We have a little over 50% in the drive, because I wanted it to bite a bit. Let me just drop that a little bit here. Okay, and then we have, of course, the trim, which is the output from this particular module going into the next. We have also a little over +2, 2.07 going out of that preamp. And then we have an EQ here, the first EQ, FGA, which is the API emulation from Slate. And what I'm doing here, I'll just tell you what I'm doing here and why I'm doing it. I'm boosting 50 hertz by about 4 dBs because kick drum sound, there's a fundamental between 50 and 80 hertz. Now, if you want your kick drum to have the heft and the weight, you're boosting between 50 and 80 hertz. Anywhere between 50 and 80 hertz is going to give you that heft and that bottom oomph that a kick drum needs to have in order to bring the weight into the music. I'm also taking out 400 hertz because it has that honkiness, that boxy sound that you don't want, that woo 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 kind of sound in your drum sound. So I'm taking that out, and then I'm boosting 1.5 kilohertz by a whole lot. That's about 8 dB, 6 dBs. And I'm boosting 1.5 because I want the kick drum to knock through the mix. I want it to poke through the mix, and I really want to hear it in the midst of other percussions and the midst of other elements of the entire mix. So that's why I'm boosting 1.5 kilohertz. And then for some air, the sound that follows the impact, the tail of the kick drum itself, I'm boosting 10 kilohertz, just 2 dBs of 10 kilohertz to achieve that tail. And then there's a compressor going on here. I have, of course, the input around 4, and then the, sorry, that's 3. And then the attack is very slow because I want to save the transient of the drums. When you're mixing drums, compressing any kind of drums or percussions, you need to save the transient. You need to have a slow attack so that the attack of the compressor is not cutting off the transient. That's the initial sound of that element. So you have to have a slow attack, and this setting is around 8, so it's very slow. And then the release is just around the middle, around 6. And then the output, of course, is around 7 because it's introducing some volume. Okay, and then there's also this particular module is introducing some saturation, and we're going to hear what that sounds like. And then there's a second EQ here, and I'm going to show you what these guys are doing. Of course, I'm just doing very little. The first thing I'm doing here is boosting 62 hertz. I'm boosting another, fundamental range here at 62 hertz, and I'm doing a big boost. That's about 7 dBs. And the next thing I'm doing is another 1.6 kilohertz, and I'm boosting that also by about 6 dBs. And the reason I'm doing that is because I really wanted to poke through the mix. I really wanted to be present in the mix. And then we have this secret sauce, this FG Bomber, which is a very powerful plugin. It's a very powerful emulation of several things, because there's a lot that is going on underneath the hood of this particular plugin. Now what I'm doing here is introducing just a little drive, a little saturation, and then this knob right here, this knob that is called intensity. There's a lot that is going on underneath this particular knob, and if you have this plugin and you're using this particular plugin for any of your mixes, I advise that you are careful with this particular knob, because there's a lot of compression, a lot of saturation going on underneath it, even if it's just called intensity. All right, so be careful with that. It has a fantastic sweet sound, but just like every other thing, anything can be overdone. There can't be too much of anything, and too much of anything is not good. Okay, all right, we're looking for fat drum sounds, so the setting here might as well be fat. So I set it to fat, and then the output of the bomber is just around midway. That's around 10. Right there. That's around -1. Okay, and then we have a trimmer just dropping the volume just a tad, just about 3 dBs, not too much. And then the sound we have here is this. Okay, so what is each module doing now? Let's start with the EQs. Now you can see from this very first EQ that if I just bypass that, so you can see that there's some brightness introduced, there's some air, there's some oomph introduced from the 50 hertz also. Now let's look at this compressor. What's the compressor doing? It's just collecting all the frequencies, or most of it actually, reining in the sound of the kick drum, making it tighter. That's one of the things I wanted to achieve with this particular distressor plugin. All right, now the second EQ, what is it doing? Bringing in more oomph and more heft into the mix. All right, now what is FG Bomber doing? This Bomber guy, what is he doing? FG Bomber is also contributing to the tightness of the drum sound, but I may actually decide to let it go a bit. Just bring down the intensity a little bit here, and the drive, just bring it down. Let's listen again. All right, let's go to the drum bus and see what the SSL compressor is doing. I'll just unbypass it here and let's listen. So it's introducing a little bit more volume, a little bit more loudness to it. And then it's allowing that tail breathe a bit. It's allowing the tail extend a little more so that it can be perceived in the mix. All right, now let's go back to the mix and listen to all that has been done now in the entire mix. No more soloing so that we can hear in context.
I wonder what I would have been if it were not for you. I wonder what I would have been if you had not come for me. Yeah, my days would be painful, sorrow would cover me through. But I praise you, Lord, for coming here.
And if we were to go to a section of the music that had, you know, some where the kick drum is spaced a little bit more.
When the enemy comes in like a flood, the Lord will raise a standard against him. When he throws temptations at you,
Cool. Let's listen to another section.
oh, lift your head to the one who saves completely. Tell me why your hands will be raised to the one who lives in the light. Join and lift Jesus high. Higher, higher, Lord, my mighty.
Okay, so you can hear that the kick drum is present at the same time it's poking through, and at the same time it still has that heft. It still has the oomph that we're trying to achieve. It's not just meant to poke through and not have a weight with it. We wanted to retain the weight. We wanted to preserve the heft of the kick drum, and we also wanted it to poke through the mix. That's what I wanted to achieve, and that's what we have here. Now let's listen to the sound of the kick and hear exactly what the overhead track and the room tracks are contributing to the sound of the kick. All right, so if we were to solo the kick for now and also solo the overhead channel and the room tracks right here. So if I were to take out the kick track, I'll bring it back in. So what you want is for the purest kick recording sound to be the main contributor to the final output or the final sound of the kick drum in the mix. And that's what we have here. Now, if we were to take out the overheads while it plays and take out the room mics, then you can hear what these other channels are contributing to the main kick drum sound. Now, you have to listen closely because you're also hearing, of course, the snare and the hi-hats and the crash and all that. But if you listen closely to just the kick sound, you will hear exactly what this overhead channel is introducing to the sound of the kick itself. Because if you were to go this route and introduce overhead tracks and room tracks and all that, even with samples, because these are samples, I'm not quite sure what exact drum software I used here, but I'm not going to mention any names, but these are drum samples. This is actually a software. This is the sound from a software, drum software, which I used in this particular session. So if you want to go ahead and use, or bring in the stems of the overheads and the room mics from that particular software, you're free to do that. But know that you have to be able to tell what contributions this overhead channel or this room channel is making to the entire drum sound. If you don't need it, then you don't need it in the mix. You might as well take it out. If it's useless, you might as well take it out. So, but I knew what I was going for, and I wanted it there so I can have, a denser feel for the drums. Okay, so back to the mix. Let's listen to the drums one more time from this point.
I lift you higher. I lift you high, high, high. It's sing and do more. On and I bless your name.
All right. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that there are many ways to achieve a thick, fat, hefty kick drum sound, but this is the route I chose. Now, you can use whatever plugins you have at your disposal. You can use whatever software to achieve fat drums, but this is what I use. This is what I have, and this is what I use to achieve this. Now, you don't have to have Slate plugins to have fat drums. You don't have to have the FG Bomber. You don't have to have the FG73 preamps or the API EQs. You can use whatever you have to make similar EQ moves and compression moves to achieve this particular sound. But the goal of this is to just achieve fat drums. So we're looking at having heavy drums that still poke through in the mix and are present. In the next video, we're going to be looking at the snare drum and also the hi-hat if we have the time. And I'm going to be breaking down every single move I made and showing you how I achieved the sound that you can hear. All right, now if you like this video, tap the like button, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that right now. Tap the notification bell so that you're notified when there's new content from this channel, and that would be amazing. So till next time when we see again, keep mixing, keep doing your audio work. And if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to add to this video, perhaps you want to share your own methods of achieving fat drums in your mixes, I'll be glad to hear from you. I'll be glad to get back at you on that. Just drop the comments in the comment section below, and that would be fantastic. And so from me here at Silum 7 Music Studio, I am Akurios, and I'll see you next time.